To the collective, man. It's your boy Hood Mystic back with another video. Today, I'm going to be reacting to a video that coincides with my research. Um, if y'all just give me 1 second, I will be right back. I just got to do one thing.
The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse. And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet at its conclusion.
Peace to the tribe, peace to the collective, man. It's Hood Mystic here with a reaction video. I'm going to be talking about why we argue as black men and black women from a psychological point of view. So I'm going to be reacting to a video that I seen on my timeline in reference to just basic rigmarole conversations between black men and black women. I'm not really fixated and focused on the video per se. More or less, I'm trying to address the psychological issues that may come up in your day to day relations between black men and black women when they don't have a specific mode of shadow work. And what I mean by shadow work is that they're able to sort things out internally. So, therefore, their objective external view is not counterintuitive. So, first scenario I want to lay out is circular reasoning, where if I have a disposition, let's just say all men are bad, then everything that I think and say and bring to the surface is bad, right? But if I want to figure out if men are good or bad, I have to actually do the due diligence. I have to actually do the study to figure out whether men are good, whether men are bad. So if I assume something and then everything that I say supports my assumption, that is a logical fallacy. And this comes from not being able to learn new information based on having a confirmation bias, based on cognitive dissonance, where new information is a challenge to what you already know. So when we reference spiritual, religious, occult education, it's very hard to disseminate it because when we talk about these particular things, people already know. They already have their assumptions, they already have their premises, and everything that they speak to is only to confirm what they already know. So this is circular reasoning. And in this particular context, we're talking about the conversations between, and I'm gonna just be frank, black men and black women who don't understand the shadow and how it shows up. So within this conversation, men have a relationship with the anima and women have a relationship with the animus. And these are energetic psychological relationships that you have with the opposite sex within you. So basically, if I am a man and I have a consciousness as a man, I also have an unconscious that is a woman. And when we say unconscious, it means that I'm unaware of it, but it still thinks, drinks, and acts through me, the individual vessel. On the contrary, if you are a woman, you have an inner man that thinks and drinks and acts and behaves in reference to your human vessel, but you are not aware of it. So, therefore, the mode of shadow work is for you to get in tune with this specific consciousness within you. So there is the unconscious masculine side of a woman. Then there's also the unconscious feminine side of a man. When you are not in tune with these particular things, you will be yapping, right? So, what does this look like in real life? This looks like white chicks, Marlon Wayans and Sean Wayans solving crimes, not real. And it'll also look like Kiki Palmer and Pimp. So one will look at Kiki Palmer and say, this is just a woman. But then when you see her in Pimp, you say, damn, she really acted her ass off in this movie. What is this specifically speaking to? This is speaking to the animus within Kiki Palmer. When you're as an actor, a good actor, you have to be in tune with your animus or your anima. This is how you convey those messages effectively. Now, on a more personal note, when we're relating to people, if you're not in tune with this part of you, you will more than likely, less than likely, I would say more than likely, argue with the opposite sex. It will not make sense. Y'all will argue and argue and argue and argue. And these arguments are circular. It's like a circle that never ends, it never begins, and never stops. It's not logical, but yet and still online we have these conversations. So, with this being said, I'm really trying to formulate and calculate shadow work in a real, normal, everyday basis. So, therefore, this is why I'm reacting to this video because it is symmetrical to my study. So therefore, I want to play certain parts of it, pause, and address the shadow work that's taking place throughout this video and show you exactly what is taking place on a psychological level under the surface. So this is the title of this video is Womb Management Discussed. I think it's from Lapeef Network. So let's just react to this.
So, will the leaders step to the fore of the congregation? Because I thought I had heard that y'all was the leaders, and I heard that y'all control marriage. So, hmm?
Are we
You're
talking
talking
about?
about
Is
is
that
that
what
why
Ali,
you
Ali,
having this
Ali, what you
conversation?
got on that? Let me see what Ali got on that. I'll let you answer
So
that.
The biggest issue in our community is women have autonomy over their bodies, and they say they have all the power over their bodies as well too. So you have my body, my choice. You have sexual liberation. You have feminism, and you have women who let coverage of men, their father and other men. You can't tell women what to do. So if a man wants the child, the woman will say, and she doesn't want the child, she'll just say my body, my choice. But if she wanted the child, she'll say you should have wore a condom. If you majority of times we ask women, we have these conversations, if they wanted how many kids do you have, they'll say how many kids you have, and we say, well, how many, why you got that many kids? Because I wanted that many kids. So women given access, women choose who they give access to, women choose who they get sex, and women choose who become fathers, and women choose the babies come into this world. So the primary responsibility is on the woman. That's their primary responsibility above all. They were supposed to marry before they carried. They fought to be able to make a choice to be liberated from men, to be liberated from having to be controlled, and they chose to be sexually liberated. So until they choose to be responsible with their womb again, we're gonna have single mother homes, strong, independent women. With respect to all the sisters too.
So listen to this. It could seem like the man has a very strong logic and a base for what he is saying. But from a psychological point of view, when we typecast any type of person, when we typecast men, when we typecast women, that is not a reflection of the people that we are typecasting. We can only be from, it is a inner reality that is being projected on the external surface. So we're only seeing what we want to see. And it is very, very tricky when you get online and you have conversations, because what these things can do is confirm your bias. Where you will have a conversation about men, you will have a conversation about women, but at the same time, you're not able to really have a conversation about you. So when the man talks, he is almost 100% releasing all accountability, not on men, but on himself, to be visual towards these particular things that's happening in the quote unquote black community, where maybe if he grew, maybe he was surrounded by people that exclusively married and exclusively had an arrangement to how they married, his viewpoint on the world would be different, and he wouldn't be having these particular conversations. However, when men expose themselves to having sex with any type of woman, they're going to attract the type of women that will have sex with any type of man. Therefore, all women are loose and easy. One's in the chat if that makes sense what I'm saying. Because if you are in a convent, or if you just grew up on a specific side of town, or went to a specific school, or went to a specific church, or had a specific society, that has more to do with your viewpoint than the totality of the situation. Because here we are talking about 150 million Americans that we could just kind of have carte blanche conversations about what all men are doing and what all women are doing, to have a conversation, right? But the real conversation is what I'm doing, because I'm the only one that knows what I'm doing. I can only speak to what I'm doing. So in the realms of shadow work in all of my courses, I learn what I teach and I teach what I learn. I could never say, oh yeah, I know exactly what you need to do. Do this, do this, do that, do that, do this, do that. Because one, I got my own shit to take care of. And two, you have a soul. You have a soul. So at the end of the day, if your soul say we ain't doing that, guess what? You ain't doing that. So there is no real instruction or guidance in the world. It is just simply people telling on themselves.
This is what it sounds like where I'm from.
DJ, could I get Kim in there real quick, and then we
Yeah,
come
I
back
just
to
want
you?
to say this is what it sounds like when you talk yourself out of pussy because y'all keep telling us to choose better.
What would you tell me if I was trying to use money to buy love and I was trying to use money to get a woman's cooperation? What kind of guy would you think I am? What would you say to me?
I would not look at you as a very masculine guy.
Right. So if women use their bodies to manipulate men and get cooperation from men, no, you that's the accountability. We can't blame. You can blame if I'm a sucker, that's my fault.
Right.
If I spend on women and try to get her cooperation, if I spend on women and try to get her to love me, if I spend on women and try to manipulate them, knowing they don't love me and don't want to be with me, that's how I'm sending cash apps, I'm hitting their OnlyFans. I'm a sucker to women and I'm a sucker to men, primarily to women. So if women are giving their bodies away to men for nothing in exchange, no cooperation, and trying to manipulate a man to do something he doesn't want to do, the accountability falls on the woman.
I strongly disagree.
So at this point, this is where things will start to go left. And the main reason is projection in arguments, where when you project your unconscious, when you project your, as a man, you project your anima onto a woman, you see a woman for how you see yourself. How you see yourself as a woman. Now, this is very complicated and very convoluted. So I have to be very methodical of how I explain this. So as a man, you have a woman living inside of you. When you don't address that woman, you project that woman onto any woman who has those specific qualities. So, therefore, if you want to know what the inner woman of you looks like, you will see it in women that are illogical, women who are just yapping that don't make sense. You will want to engage with those women and try to make sense of those women, because you're not talking to that woman, you're talking to yourself. Okay? This is very important. When you are seeing women as using their body, this is very key for men. When you look at women and you say, man, she's using her body to get sexual attraction from men, you either want to do that or you're doing that. Okay? When you say, man, this woman is highly manipulative, this woman is evil, I don't trust this woman. These are inner qualities in reference to your unconscious. What do I mean by unconscious? You are not aware of it. And until your unconscious is, which is in the dark, which is in the shadow, until you shine a light on it, you will never change your stance. Contrary to women having a masculine presence within them, a very controlling, oppressive, and aggressive nature. And if you are not in tune with it, guess what? That man is oppressive. That man is a narcissist. That man is controlling. That man is aggressive. And of course he is. And if this is your belief, if this is your understanding, it will never change. But this is your belief. This is your disposition. So if your belief and disposition never changes, that man could change every single day. But your belief and disposition is going to say the same. So therefore, when people say, all right, I'm going to get a panel with men and women and we're going to have a conversation, what you have is simply circular, repetitive arguments where the men are not listening to the women. The women are not listening to the men. they're trying to get their shit off, meaning that they want to prove their projection correct in that person. They're trying to go back and forth and win an argument. So this panel could just be a macrocosm for people who don't do shadow work. You could be that person, or people in your life could be this person where they live for an argument. One's in the chat if you know somebody, one's in the chat if you are that somebody that you do not duck smoke. They do not duck smoke. They're trying to get their shit off. That is an inner turmoil. That is a inner discombobulation where you are not in tune with your inner masculine if you are a woman. You are not in tune with your inner feminine if you are a man. And trust me, this is normal. The crazy part of it is that when we are talking about feminine energy in 2025, and the feminine is able to be, free to make her money, free to do all of the things that a man can do. But then at a certain point internally, she may want a man to take care of her. One's in the chat, if you ever heard in your entire life, I want a man that's going to take care of me. If you've ever heard it ever in your life. But have you ever heard, I make my own money and I don't need a man for nothing? Have you ever heard that in your entire life? So therefore, that's a dichotomy. That's a split. And if one person says I'm independent, I don't need a man, and another person says I want somebody to take care of me, the goal ultimately is to find a balance within yourself. I mean, realistic, what you need a man for, what you can provide to a man to provide balance. When to provide balance. So I can't even say that. To provide balance. But when you do not have that balance, when you are deep in your animus as a woman, only thing you can think about is what you're thinking about. These ideas, so what masculine energy is very oppressive. Is very much my way or the highway. And when you don't have an open mind as a divine feminine, you are in your masculine energy, my way or the highway. And the issue usually is you have good reason to hold those beliefs. This happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, and this is why I feel this way. Shadow work is the ability to know that I have these ways of belief. I know they're wrong. I can't change the past. I'm ready to change what is deeply ingrained in my psyche and balance it in reference to a more understandable approach. Because I'm telling you, it is very subtle when the animus takes over or when the anima takes over. Subtle in the way where you have asked about the things that you are going through. And you might say, man, maybe I got adult ADHD. Maybe these women don't like me. What's wrong with these men out here? What's wrong with the job market? I'm not able to get enough money, so forth and so on. What's subtly holding you back is that you are not in tune with yourself. And it is very subtle. It is very subtle, meaning that because it's a part of you, because it's conscious, and because you are unaware of it, it begins to run your life in a way that is trying to force you to see it. And you can take listen, ladies and gentlemen, you can go through every single process in the world, and it'll just seem like something is missing in every relationship, in every conversation, in every disposition. And I'm telling you, if you do not get in tune with your inner masculine consciousness for the women, if you do not get in tune with your inner feminine consciousness for the man, you are 50% off of your shit. Because God is masculine and feminine. The nature of God is Yahweh and Shekinah, is Shiva and Parvati, is Isis and Osiris. They're not talking about actual people. They're talking about the psychology of every human being. If you show up masculine external, you are feminine internal. If you show up feminine external, you are masculine internal. The issue is when you are, say, if I'm a man, and then I think of myself internally as a man, that means that my animus is taken over. Therefore, I have no balance or no grounding in the feminine side. So, how does this show up in my relationships? I'm trying to get this woman to like me and to please me and to love me for something that I'm not even for real. Because when you are attuned as a man, in tune with your divine feminine, you're already in love. See, this world is not real. Let's just bring, this world is a matrix. This world is a simulation, okay? And I know that sounds like far out, but the relationship in real life in reference to your wife is a relationship that you establish on the inside first, and then on the outside it can manifest. This is why when you date people, it never really fully connects because you haven't had the real relationship internally. So within you is your wife, within you is your husband. Now you have to live and accept this and start doing this work internally, and guarantee they will manifest in this external world. Because the ancient person, the reason that you and me are here is because people have had sex. One's in the chat if that's a fair assessment. I don't think any of us would be here if our ancestors did not have sex. And our ancestors managed to have sex without online dating. Our ancestors managed to have sex without the club. Our ancestors had a understanding of their unconscious mind, and it is common knowledge and common, it's a common spiritual practice to bring about that other half, to magnetically pull that energy to you to live in that bliss. Now, when you are a woman and the only thing you think about is being a woman, your internal is a woman, you are not having the real internal experience that's going to bring you into love and romantic bliss. You are creating a schism between you and your other half. And a person might have an argument with me, but I need you to really think about this real quick. I really need you to think about this and let me know if this makes sense. If you are born a male, doesn't that male exude a consciousness, right? You like to work on cars, you like to work out, play basketball. That is the gender associating with the consciousness. So therefore, when we talk about our mind, and say for instance you had an alter ego, don't you think that that alter ego will have a specific consciousness and want to be noted specifically? Imagine if you was a human being, a man, and every time you went to work it was this, they just called you this vague concept that they couldn't really wrap their mind around. Like I don't really get you as a human being. Like you're so mystical to me. Like, like I can't really understand you as a concept. And you'll be like, my name is Jim. So, what am I specifically talking about? I'm saying specifically when you go within yourself, you should be able to talk to that woman within you like her name was Lisa. I would tell y'all my anima's name, but I'm going to hold that as a secret. I mean, it's cool. Her name Alexis. See what I'm saying? She a little freaky little thing. You know what I'm saying? Little shorty wop. What's your anima's name? What's your anima's name? So I just want to lay that groundwork, and I'm gonna get back to reacting to this video.
Part, DJ? Which part did you disagree with?
All of it. What's up?
My light skin privilege didn't work.
No, because I'm light
Damn.
skinned. That don't work over here. Damn.
God dang. Okay, so
That
what what
don't work,
what?
Albie.
Tell me which
That
one was
don't
it
work,
wrong?
Christopher.
Which one was wrong? Which one was wrong? Which one did you not agree with? I'll address that one.
If a woman is having an abortion, it's because they feel like they won't be supported in that pregnancy and for the care of that child.
I I didn't. That's not what my argument was. Is it a woman's choice whether she has a baby or not?
Of course. Is it a
Is it?
man's choice? Is it a man's choice
I'm almost done.
where he releases his seed?
Yes, to the woman who opens her legs to him.
Oh, okay. So it's on a woman because she opened her legs. But meanwhile, see, we're the soil, but you're the seed. Can't
That's right.
nothing grow in soil unless
Well,
you
you right
plant
about
that seed.
you right about
So
that.
you need to make sure that you empower yourself as a seed planter and be careful where you plant your seed. If that's a woman.
So those conversations, it always interests me. Like, and I'm gonna just kind of just like as she's speaking, I'm processing it. Right? It's like if the assumption is that women are good, but men also have to be careful where they place their seed, then we have to redirect the conversation because what I feel that is missing is the sinister aspect of men and women in relation to sex and children and how these things are used against you, how these things hurt you and affect you in the long run, and also how there is no support for people who make bad decisions sexually. So I would then I would redo my assumption and say that I will hope that that woman is good. I will hope that that man is good. But my initial assumption is that men and women have negative attentions, especially if I'm on the dating market, an open market full of random strangers. I'm going to put a 2% chance of me finding a good person in that market. So therefore, if I know that the dating market is 98% bad, there is no way that I'm going on a dating market for one. There is no way that I'm having sex with somebody for like I'm not dating for one. So it's going to be hard for me to have sex with somebody. So therefore, the conversation with a lot of people goes, all right, if I'm not dating, how am I going to meet my potential wife? How am I going to meet my potential husband? You have to get into your psychology. If you are a man, you are already married. This is magic. This is spirituality. And the ways to God is through your relationship. So when you on the dating market and you having dinner and you having sex, that don't have nothing to do with God. That don't have nothing to do with your soul. When you on the dating market and you having sex, that's all that has to do is with you, your ego. So when we having conversations with our ego, we're also not having conversations with our unconscious.
That you don't want to marry, why are you planting your seed in soil that you don't want to marry?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the point.
Yeah, right. You moved the point again. I can address that point after that though. But if you opening your legs to me, you're putting yourself at risk for disease. You put raw too. Not you could have told me to put a condom. It's ironic you tell a man he should have wore a condom, but shouldn't women tell a man to wear a condom too?
No,
Okay,
you a
so
grown
what?
ass man. You
So
should be
so
able to
so with the
know.
Oh,
response
Coco,
to
you.
that,
Oh,
we
You
can
ain't
blame
answering the
no matter
topic.
what. And I'm gonna explain this because
Mhm.
it's very simple.
Okay.
When a woman doesn't open her legs, she gets met with a lot of aggression. We adults, you think that's realistic for me to be in a relationship? I have needs. This is the type of conversation that a woman runs into when she gets into a relationship and she says, you know what, I'd rather abstain. I want to wait. I don't want to have premarital sex. She gets looked at like she has five heads, right? So
So
then when she says
And once again, if we're going to have these particular conversations, we can't assume that the man that we are dating that's putting us under pressure for sex is a good man. Right? If you're dating somebody and he's saying, "Well, I need to have sex or I need to have sex to see if this thing is really real." That's a red flag, ladies. When we're dealing with mature relationships, we should be able to do about 20 to 30 things, real in depth things, real, like we should be able to match on so many different levels that by the time we get to sex, whether it's good or not, we found somebody that can support us and balance us out because we understand the importance of life and the importance of relationships. So, us on these panels, these are because we don't do shadow work. We get on these panels and we talk about sex, 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 kids, 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 kids. We never talk about how this country is based upon to a dual income. Like Google is always your friend. Is America based on dual income? Yes or no? Because I'm talking about a conversation. Based on current data, the American family structure is largely considered to be dual income, meaning both partners typically contribute to the household income through their own jobs. If we can't talk about this on our panels, then we ain't talking about nothing. Cause it ain't cause when we get into conversations about sex, ironically, we're talking about the needs that we didn't meet, the needs that we didn't get met in our childhood, and we want love. And through this societal construct, we view love through sex. Sex is love, and love is sex. They're interchangeable, interwoven in our reality. So therefore, you can be in a relationship with somebody and have sex with them and don't discuss finances. One's in the chat if that is crazy. Like, what are you in a relationship for in America? And we're not discussing the modes of how we can actually have, because if we're in a relationship, if we're both single and we don't have a social structure that is leading to us having a husband or a wife, then we are on the outside looking in. Meaning that anybody that you meet that's on the outside looking in, y'all got to look at each other like, if we don't work together, we going to be at the bottom forever. So therefore, me and you should never be arguing if we got kids together. Me and you should be game planning, budgeting, getting our finances together just to live and survive and provide a decent life for our kids. Not whether the sex is good or not. But we are regressed people because we don't do shadow work and all we do is argue. What is an argument? When my inner reality is being projected on you because you match qualities that make it hard for me to look at myself. But what is myself in this context? When I'm a woman, it is my inner masculine. Because I don't deal with my inner masculine, I can talk shit to you, man. Because I don't deal with my inner feminine, I can talk shit to woman. That is an argument. When you do the inner work, you begin to see everybody as yourself and whether they need work or don't need work or whether y'all can match or not. And it's okay because you are healed and you are whole and you're not holding nobody accountable. Like, you don't have to hold nobody accountable. You can just sit back and say, I'm going to let this motherfucker do him because I'm good over here. But when you not good, you like a goddamn dog seething to motherfucking take a bite out of somebody in a fucking argument online. It's niggas that sit up all day, got the setup, and just going on the panels, ready to argue. For what? That's what you got to start asking a nigga. Like, what is you getting out of this? What they're getting is the inability to heal. And it's cool to not heal when you can attack somebody else.
Says, you know what? I'm in a monogamous relationship, or so I think. I feel safe in this.
Shout out to my boy DJ Witch Doctor. Shout out to everybody watching. Make sure you like the video, share the video, subscribe. Make sure y'all subscribe to DJ Witch Doctor's channel. One of the fast up and coming YouTubers on these streets. Especially if you up at night, want a good engaging conversation. Subscribe to my boy DJ Witch Doctor. Holding it down.
Situation. I was told that there is loyalty here, that there's monogamy here. So I'm going to open myself up to this situation because I don't necessarily need marriage, but we have a commitment, we have an understanding, we're building something together. And then the woman gets pregnant, and then all of a sudden we're not married. And all of that other stuff goes out the window. All the niggas that talk about I don't need a paper, I don't want to play alimony, I don't believe in paperwork, all that shit goes out the window. So it's a constant cycle of gaslighting. Period. No matter how you slice it, dice it, flip it up, put it down, there is an issue with the black man missing as a father. And I'm not talking about the fun weekend dad, the dad that takes the kids to the McDonald's every other weekend, and I'm talking about the father. And whether or not you're in the home, I'm not talking about that because that's a different conversation. I'm talking about you showing up for your kids. I'm talking about you parenting in a real way, not in an abstract way, where you're doing all the things you need to do. You're helping with the homework. You're clipping the fingernails. You're paying for field trips. You're buying the uniforms. You're buying the winter coats.
So this is a slippery slope, and generally, this is going to happen when you do no animus progression as a woman. When you are in the presence of a man, it's a bottom. The Bible talks about a bottomless pit, and I imagine this to be when a woman wants something out of a man. When you want something out of a man, it might seem logical to you to want a million things out of a nigga, right? To clip fingernails and pick the kids up from school, but he also have to work a full-time job. Maybe he's an overachiever. Maybe he love his job, so maybe he working 40, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Then he have to have self-management. He have to take care of a home, right? What's the common thing for men when they have a place at their crib, right? That they usually paying for. You know what they call that shit? A man cave. You've heard the concept of a man cave before. Listen, this whole house is my cave. What are you talking about? If I'm paying the bills, I'm not relegated to nothing. This whole shit is going to be aesthetically pleasing to me, right? Because what we cannot do is put yourself in a position where you are checking off boxes. Oh, he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this. Because now you're satisfying that unconscious animus within a woman. Because this is the father within a woman that didn't do those things. So let's really get into this, right? Say, for instance, your dad had a child at 30. What does that mean? That means for 30 years, this man or been a person living their lives. When you met him at 30, you just met that version of him. More or less, what I'm saying is we never fully know our parents and we never know what they've been through. And we have an undeveloped relationship with our parents. Therefore, we fill in the blanks. So once we know what our father, this is the real shit, and you will never wiggle out of this. Once you figure out what your father was supposed to do, you don't project that onto him. You project that onto the man that you're dealing with. So your inability to be happy or to be happy in a relationship is based upon how well this man is filling a father role in your life. And the problem with projection is that you never actually deal with that person for real. So when you're dealing with a person for real, this is day one. We just met. I'm getting to know this person. You're never going to experience that in this world. You're going to be their dad, their brother, their boyfriend, their ex boyfriend, and vice versa. You're going to be their mother. You're going to be their sister. You're going to be every woman that they've ever met. That experience is now projected onto you. And now you're just bouncing back, reiterating, and trying to like match that mold. So, what is then the solution to that? Because that'll never be a solution. The solution is shadow work, understanding your animus and your anima, understanding your inner masculine for a woman and inner feminine for a man. And what I did was she wrote me a letter and my life changed. I sat with a pen and paper and I said, "It's a woman inside of me. I want to talk to you." And she just was talking to me. I'm just writing everything that she's saying to me. How much I deserve to be loved and all of this shit. It was just a beautiful page of a woman talking to me and my life changed. Like a shift took place internally and externally. And now I'm cool. Like I'm very much cool from a psychological state. Because there is a point where you say you cool, but you really not cool. But when you actually do this inner work and cool from the inside out, you don't have this thirst to prove nothing to nobody. You just living in inner peace and bliss. And it's not to say that you're going to be by yourself because the magic is being whole. That's really the magic. Everybody talk about masculine and feminine energy. It don't have nothing to do with a man and a woman. See, it can be that, but ultimately you can't choose whether or not you're going to be in a healthy relationship. But you can choose whether or not to be in a healthy relationship with yourself.
The boots.
And shout out to my boy King Ramsey for the $10 super chat. Appreciate y'all tapping in with me. Like the video if you like it. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Peace to y'all.
Without a woman asking you. You're doing all the things that need to be done and covered. You're not complaining. You're doing. You're being the leader that you say you want to be. It's not happening. You guys are saying that you want to be the leaders, but you're not showing up. You're not leading. You're not initiating. Your demographic is the least to get married to any race, not just black women. When you go and you get involved with your preferences, they have the same issues that the black women have with you. So is the issue the black women or is it you? What's the commitment issue? What's the issue with getting married? What's the issue with planning roots and having a family? Let's talk.
So that was false. That was false information. What you just said. There are 700,000 more
Show
married black.
data that
There,
proves
there are,
that.
there are. You can Google it after I state. I'm not doing that anymore for anybody. Like if you really care about it, you go research it. There's
Neither
700,000.
have.
I didn't interrupt you. There's 700,000 more married black men than black women. Black women are the most divorced out of any race in any group. So even if you're telling men, this is the problem with asking men to practice discipline, asking men to be leaders, asking men to protect and provide. Women have no responsibility.
And I want you to notice what took place. She has stats that said black men are the least married, which is true. But what he did was then said black men, he's going to say black women are less married than black men, but that wasn't what she was referencing. So if it's a white man, Chinese man, Mexican man, Arabian man, Palestinian man, and a black man, the black man is going to be less married than all of those men. That's a fact. What's the reason for it? Shit. Who knows? Like, like one could say our ancestors, it could be us, but that is a fact that if I mean we could talk about reasons why that's a fact, but in a circular reasoning, in a circular argument, you do not listen to what that person is saying. So he begins to talk. Guess what happens? She's shaking her head the whole time he's talking. So macrocosm is this panel. Microcosm is when you are arguing with your girlfriend and you trying to get your point across and she looking at you shaking her head. I mean, it's not slavery. It's for sure not slavery because in 1940, African Americans were married more than any race. And slavery was over, quote unquote, in 1863. In 1940, African Americans were more likely to be married than is often assumed. In fact, compared to other racial groups. So we could talk more COINTELPRO. I mean, we could talk about sugar, we could talk about a lot of different things as to why we are not married. But in your grandmother's or great grandmother's generation, Black people were the most likely to be married because we're dealing with a people that operated with the unconscious and the psychological in tow, which would be the spiritual, which would be the Black church. Now, millennials, Gen Zs, and Gen Alphas, we don't care about church because we don't like the Bible or the politics surrounding the church. But church was always a social construct for you to get married. It's where you would go every Sunday and you look your best from a child to a young girl to a grown woman, and you would find your husband. And you would get married in church. Y'all would both be members of the church, and you would move like that. When you remove the Black church from the Black people, now we don't have no social structure to become married. Therefore, everybody is from the ego with it, talking about what they deserve or what they want and how good they look or whatever. So another aspect about this is like trying to understand it from a selling point of view. What do I mean by this? So say for instance, we going into a shop and I'm trying to buy a cell phone. We going into T-Mobile and it's two salesmen and one salesman, he come to you. Salesman one says, if you buy this phone for me, I will get commission and I will get an extra $300 on my check. Can you buy this phone? Excuse me. Can you buy this phone for me? And then salesman number two says, what kind of phone do you need? What'll best suit you? Or you travel a lot? All right, let's get this Nextel chirp with the bleep. So every time you bleep, shorty bleep back. And you like, oh, okay. Are you going to buy from salesperson one or salesperson two? I hope you will buy from salesperson two. Now, when men are trying to get in relationships with women, we should understand what women want. When women want to get in relationship with men, we should understand what men want. The reason why Black people do not get married as a whole is because they're only concerned what they want out of a relationship. And that concept within itself is a repulsive concept. If I go on a date with you and you saying, well, you're not my type, you're not what I want, there's no way we could be together, right? So this is your disposition. This is your mindset. You're focused on what you want. If you was a woman and you wanted to get married tomorrow, all you would have to do is understand what that man wanted. Men, we understand that, but that's just game. But what's happening if you single or perpetually single, you probably selfish when it comes to relationships. And the reason that you're selfish is because you've never done shadow work. You've never got in tune with your divine inner masculine and said, What do you need from me? How can I show up for you? What do you have to say to me? Nobody has taught you this, and you don't understand it. Therefore, you just trying to, it's like going to a restaurant and telling them what type of food you want. You either gonna decide if that's the food you want or not. You can't go in a restaurant and say, "Can y'all change this menu? I'm here now." It don't work like that. Or even better, if you go to a restaurant and they say, "All right, we want you to buy this pizza because our electrical bill is $1,700, and our goal is to sell 100 pizzas so we can pay our electric bill." Was the pizza good? What kind of toppings do I get? It don't matter. All we want to do is pay our electric bill. The reality is that the pizza company is selling you pizzas to pay us electric bill. That's the truth. But they're never telling you this. They're just trying to give you the best pizza so you can give them the money. And people don't like transactional relationships, but that's the way of the world. When you meet a person, especially in your 30s, they don't live 30 years, 30 some odd years, and you don't know this person. So you got to figure out what you can offer this person in real terms. You can't just be assuming that they just going to assume you a great person and it's the first day that they ever seen you. I just met this person today. Now I know that this is a good person. It's not realistic. Well, what are they doing for you? Nothing. Well, that tells you a whole lot.
Responsibility to the men or children. So even when men do the right thing, Black women are still divorcing them and leaving them. So it ain't about why men aren't being loving, being supportive, being given provisions. It's why are women unmarriageable and not being cooperative? You're not listening to the guy you chose to sleep with. And we know that because you don't cooperate when you single and you don't cooperate when you're in a marriage. And you claim that women love men, but if women love men, they wouldn't go from man to man to man to man to man. They would have worked it out with the first guy. And they would have made that first choice a good choice. So if Shannon is going to make a solution-based conversation, it would be to marry before we carry. But I'll ask Shannon this and the women on the panel this. What woman is going to agree to, majority of women, are they agree to they won't sleep with anybody until they get married? And the answer I'll say is no. Uh-oh. And Shannon knows the answer about that too. If we walk down the solutions, women don't listen to no man. They don't listen to their husband. They don't listen to their daddy, and they don't even listen to God. So it's going to be very, very difficult to get a woman to listen if she won't even listen to God. Go ahead.
So I will agree with that. But I want to go back to the stat that what was the stat that you just stated?
Black women have the highest divorce rate out of any group of women, and there's 700,000 more married Black men than Black women. Black men and Black women out. There's 4 million more Black women than Black men. So we still out marry Black women, even though there's more Black women than Black men. All the other races, their women out marry the men, except for our race.
Okay, so this is one of two things, right? So when we want to compare marriage when it comes to men, it should be compared to other men. So when she said you are the least married, she means amongst men. So so let me finish. So amongst any other race of men, right? Because Black women can, even though you are marrying more than Black women, which she's just saying, hey, out of all the men, you're the least men to be married, not in comparison to women. We're talking about amongst the races. When it comes to the divorce, and I brought this stat up a while ago, you have to be very careful when we're talking about stats, right? You are absolutely correct. Black women, Black women are 70%, 70% of the time, Black women file for divorce. But how many divorces are there? 30%. Most marriages are successful.
And it's like when we are doing this statistic thing, we say, watch out for stats. And then we deliver a stat where stats are misleading because of this one fact. Is there any statistic where every person was polled? Or how do polls work? Let's just do that. So basically, polls work. They take a small segment of a population. And then out of that small segment of population, they develop percentages. So if I get 30 people and I ask them how many people filed divorce, and 80% women that filed divorce, then that's now a talking point in a panel or a debate, but it's not true because there is no real authority and observation on how did this shit work. So what about the successful relationships that didn't get officially married? Do we count them? How many of those relationships are there? How many successful relationships are there where they're not married through the state? I asked that question because there is no way to absolutely know that answer. So since I don't have the stat, then I can't even say, oh, we have to get married through the state for our relationship to be successful. That's not necessarily true. It's necessarily untrue. It's not something that we can actually talk about. When we talk about stats to have a conversation, we're just taking a segment of data and making it make sense. So if we're going to try to have a point of something, we only can deal with it internally. Cause it's not like people is watching these debates and then having a aha moments and the world is changing. These debates become, or these panels become, basically a garbage disposal of unconscious projections. Because none of these people are parsing through the data. They're not parsing through the data. They're not parsing through the data, but they're talking about the stats. It might have been a headline with a stat, but what was the control group? What was the ultimate conclusion to the research? And what about the undiagnosed or the untested subjects that are not a part of this research? How do they factor into it? A real scientist knows that they don't know shit. That's why they experiment all the time. And that it has never been an experiment where it's been a theory that have become a concrete law. It's all theoretical. It's all a bunch of what ifs. So when I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody, I'm not going to determine a statistics. The first thing I'm going to talk about is why are we talking about what we're talking about and how can we find a solution? Because even though so what's happening is that she have a very kind way of speaking, but it's also going to be not solution based. So what's happening is that people are fighting back and forth intellectually to see who win, but the reality is that there are no winners because this is all internal and it's not even meeting the bottom line. Like it's more to life than having sex, it's more to life than having relationships. And when you get it together, when you figure it out, the relationships is always going to be available. Because the relationship, just like the money, just like whatever is yours is already yours at a quantum level. You don't solve it externally, you solve it internally. There's nothing to figure out in a group, especially if it's your life and your consciousness. This is what we call individuation, where we stop projecting and we become the person that we truly are, not to isolate ourselves, but to find peace in the crowd, to find peace in the conversation, to not want to change nobody or convict nobody because you also know that you can't even do it.
We keep pushing this narrative. Yes, we did this, and I sent it to Trev one
Hold
time.
on, no, that's a lie.
Trev, didn't I send you that stat in your IG
It's
one
more.
time?
It's like a 49,
Yeah,
51.
I got the stats.
No, and the second marriages are worse and third marriages are worse. It just keeps
Oh,
declining.
yeah, the second and third one it drops down like 60%.
I'm gonna
Looking at marriage overall, she's basically
I'll
saying
send
in
it
the black community,
I don't mind sending it
out of all
again.
marriages, only
Right.
30% of them are ending in divorce.
True, but Shannon,
Right.
Shannon is asking for solutions, and then she's going to the fact that we're not as married as the white men, but she's not gonna like she'll give you the solution.
Let me finish. I'm gonna get to that.
To say.
Hold on.
So really quick, Black women, when dating interracially, are 4 times as likely to have a successful marriage in interracial dating. So I point that out to say, once again, who is the common denominator in these situations? Now, I don't even want to sit here and play the.
It was just funny. She just threw up a random stat 4 times to have a successful marriage, and it's like, what determines a successful marriage, right? And how many black women were actually polled to create that statistic? But it sound good and it confirm a bias, so you state a false fact, a false statistic, just to continue your conversation. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Blame game, right? But I don't like being lied on. I don't like that. So don't make me pull out these statistics because they're not in your favor. I would like to have the conversation beyond the blame game. I would like to talk about what we can do to be better and move forward as a community, because a lot of y'all talk about y'all are individualists. Y'all are individualists. Y'all came down on Kim talking about she's an individualist because she don't want to have kids, but y'all are not collective. Y'all not into collectivism, because if you were, you would be having conversations about how to cover and protect the women and the children in your community, regardless if it's your wife or if it's the children that are in your house. Y'all are not really into collectivism. Y'all talk so much about individualism, but y'all don't know what that really consists of. Look at China, look at Japan. Look how they take care of each other as a community. Look how they look at the bigger picture.
Oh, why you don't
Man,
go to China then?
And we don't view him the same way. Like these rappers and stuff, they have to get baby mamas go to jail, whatever. Nobody looks down on them. So as a black mother, to say that you're a single mom, for you to be like, oh, you don't get chose because you're a single mom, or we have to push you in this category. I think that saying those things in itself creates that conflict between men and women. I lost my husband, but he has this judgment for all single mothers, and a lot of men tend to do that. And I think that that is the issue. There's no compassion. There's no nothing. It's like, you're disgusting, and this is what you guys should be doing. You should just be doing what we tell you guys to do. And they're single.
So just pointing out the fact of when we talked about it earlier, and I'm gonna bring it back. When you do not do shadow work, you project your inner unconscious onto each other. So women see men as oppressive, controlling, aggressive, dismissive, when that is an understandable disposition. But there's also the counter. There is also the other side of it, where in your conversation, in your disposition, you're not allowing yourself to see it. If I said that all women were hoes, that's all I'm going to see in a woman, whether she a hoe or not. She could just be putting on some lip gloss, and I'll be like, "Look at that hoe ass shit. I knew you was a hoe, putting on that damn lip gloss, that damn lip smack." And she'll look at me crazy like I'm just putting on lipstick. What's wrong with you? It is an inner unconscious that I project in reference to me. A lot of men are hoes, meaning that they don't have no value for their sexual energy. Like a lot of men, bro, they sit back and they give that DAC away. They just give it away, give it away, give it away. And then they get online and they talk about what? Body count. Where do you think the body count conversation come from? Do you think it come from a man that is just not getting no box? It come from the whole ass man that then have some psychological misunderstanding about the value within himself, because he need to be validated with women, and he don't like the way that it feel ultimately to be having sex with all of these different type of women. There is no man on this earth that is having sex with multiple women and happy. Show me the nigga that's smiling because he got a lot of women. Show me the dude that's happy. Tell me, riddle me this. Why, if men was happy having sex with multiple women, why don't just say it from the jump? You know me, I got all of these hoes. I'm Big Daddy Longstroke out here with all of the girls like that. You know, I'm getting all of these women. Why? Because he also had to deal with their psychology. The more you deal with a woman, the more you got to deal with her psychology. And I'm not saying that is bad or is good, but I'm saying if you got one woman and you got to deal with her psychology, it's a lot. To actively deal with a second woman and her psychology, that's a lot. To deal with three women and their psychology. So what he do? He bouncing back and forth. He trying to duck and hide, have two separate phones and shit like that because he don't want y'all to know because then you will have to actually deal with his psychology. And then you say, well, where's this psychology coming from? It's coming from the fact that you putting these girls at risk, their health at risk, you putting their lives at risk. When you have sex with one person and that person is cool, they ain't having sex with nobody else, that's good. But you add in another person, and if that person is having sex with somebody else, then that person is having sex with somebody else, but that somebody else is having sex with 20 people. Like it get crazy. That's a health risk. So hell yeah, it's a problem when men have sex with multiple women. The same way it's a problem when women have sex with multiple guys, but you know it internally. Don't no guy got to tell you about your body count. You understand the broken nature of having sex with multiple men and them not loving you after having sex with you. You know what that feels like internally. I don't care about your body count. It's irrelevant.
Mothers, because you guys, most of you guys made bad
I
decisions.
have to say to you again, brother gets help.
And
And
that's
I
what
think
he was talking about postpartum.
I don't have
Ali,
any
I think the problem
postpartum
is
that hasn't been addressed. So
Ali, I think
Kind
the
of like
problem
postpartum.
you kind of Ali, I think the problem is something that y'all kind of tangle with each other in the first probably 10 seconds you was on the panel. The light skin privilege, the fact that she is a fair skinned or light skinned, meaning that
colorism
she should have,
alert.
meaning that she should have a greater chance, or greater opportunities to get right with men. And the fact that she failed makes it even worse for her.
Who failed?
Given the dark skinned women that, because you know there's a colorism issue going. So when you see the ones who should have had the advantage win and they don't, then you get women like DJ out here.
Stretch Armstrong reach. Nice.
The,
Word salad. Let's move on.
so you
Quinny, don't
predicted.
Quinny, can I ask you something quick, real
What's up?
quick, bro? I get what
What's
you're
up?
doing, but don't you kind of feel disappointed that after all of the conversations we had, we still can't get women to check a woman when she's out of line, clearly.
That's the worst
And,
part.
and what we'll do to each other is literally
Now they're
check each
trying to
other,
weaponize
cuss each
women
other
against
out,
each
No,
other. That
no,
ain't gonna work.
and
I
we
don't
So
still have
That ain't gonna work
you know
either.
what?
no. That is the worst part because if any of us disrespected the sisters, every single man on this panel would check them. If we deliberately disrespect any of you, and that's what how the sisterhood
Y'all
of the girls,
disrespect
girl.
women so
right.
much.
My
No,
It
we
be
point
don't.
on
is,
track.
No,
So yeah, that is the whole video. That was the whole video. And my overall takeaway from it in a space where we keep arguing and we keep having this subtle misunderstanding of one another. And I say subtle because the shift happens internally. So I think that the common logic of all of these channels and all of these conversations is some channels that post every day, all day relationship stuff, right? We've had the conversations, all of the panels, all of the people that go viral talking about it, so forth and so on. I personally thinking that we're putting out the message that the change is going to happen external, and that's not necessarily true. I feel like the change is going to happen on the internal. Why? Because the internal is connected to the unconscious. And the unconscious has a much more powerful way to connect to other people. Consciously, I can connect to people, right? I can walk outside and say, hey, everybody, I'm Kyrie. Come give me a hug. People might come, stop, give me a hug. They might not. They might just keep on riding past me. Consciously, I can can reach out and touch people. So that's an idea. We can have panels, we can have, powwows, let's have a conversation, we can sell tickets, and a person have one question, get five different answers, and they'll feel good about it. But at the same point, if I wanted to go to the store and you gave me five different directions to take to the store, to five different stores, right, I would be lost. We understand that in reality, but when we talk about our relationships, we're imagining that we could go about it in the same way as, say, go to a store. But I'm saying you can take that idea and then you can do it on the inside. If you want to change your life, if you want to change who shows up in your life, you don't do it by an external projection. How many movies have you saw and by talking to the movie, because we talk to the movie, hey, don't go in there, white lady, they're gonna kill you. You never change the outcome of the movie. No matter how much you ever watch a movie, know the ending, and be like, man, I hope he don't go through this doorway again. And you know he gonna go through the doorway. This is the people in our lives, and we trying to change them. But say, for instance, we wanted to watch another movie. We don't change the movie. We don't go into the TV, punch out the screen, and move the movie out of the screen. We go in the VCR, we go to the DVD, we go to our files, and we choose a different movie. And this is internal understanding of yourself. But you have to be clear with this shit, though. That's the thing. So a person will say, all right, go within yourself, journal, do all of this shit, and that's fine and good. But what I'm specifically talking about is if you're a man, going within yourself and having the woman inside of you talk to you. If you are a woman, have the man inside of yourself talk to you and not say what you want. Ask what that woman inside of you needs from you. Ask that man inside of you what it needs from you. And if you already in a relationship, you could just treat your wife like the woman inside of you wants to be treated. You can treat your husband like the man inside of you wants to be treated. But if you don't, and if you're dealing, because you are dealing with that person anyways, that man in front of you, you're not actually dealing with that man. You're not actually dealing with that woman. You're dealing with an unconscious projection of your anima or animus. So don't switch up now. Stay in the relationship, but do the inner work. Start seeing things differently. And maybe if you want to get really freaky with this, remove projections completely and look at that person like a new person. Ask that person what they want, what they need. Because what's happening in our relationships, obligation and routine. You know he got to pay the bills. You know you got to wash the dishes. And this is how you relate and communicate to one another. But what could you do for that man to just set his world on fire tonight? It's a Wednesday. It's not even a weekend. What's going to happen tonight when the kids go to sleep? Is you too tired to do something special for that man? You too tired to do something special for that woman? You know she like to get her nails done. Why don't you, like, I'm talking about you married to this person. I'm not talking about a girl you meeting on the first date. You know she get her nails done. You know she get her nails done. Why not take some money out your savings, out your bank account, and get her nails done? But no, be like, oh, you better wash them dishes. You better cook that food. You're not in tune with your feminine side. You're not in tune with your masculine side. So that's all I wanted to talk about. Just wanted to do a little reaction video. If y'all see anything on the internet in reference to relationships this week, go ahead and DM me on Instagram at TheHoodMystic. I want to just find more videos to react to. I got a couple of videos, but I feel like I could do better, and I would want to see what y'all be paying attention to on the relationship side. If there was any questions you had in reference to why I can't get a man, why I can't get a woman, I'm gonna say it's all internal. And if you have a relationship with the feminine inside of you, that woman will show up. If you have a relationship with the masculine inside of you, that man will show up. And sometimes they already showed up. You already in a relationship, but you still haven't had an internal relationship with your shadow. In this context, your shadow is your unconscious feminine and masculine sides. Like the video if you liked it, share the video to somebody who is always arguing with a girl, and subscribe to this channel if you're new here. I appreciate you, and I'll see y'all